Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another live stream. This is a very strange time to be streaming. I'm well aware. This is very early in the day. Most of the Americans are probably not even awake. But hey, this is a European healthy stream. This is a a European catered stream. But yeah, we have some interesting news topics to talk about today. Of course, this is my news segment that I usually do from time to time. So today we're going to be looking at Nike Skims. We're going to be looking at Waight Keller's new Uniqlo-C collection. And we will also be looking at the face of fashion retail, essentially. How's everyone doing there? How are all the urbans? Culture just woke up. Isn't it really early in the US? It should be really, really early. Obviously, depending where you are. Not everyone in the US has the same time zone, but yeah, depending. Someone said I'm on my lunch break. Elle says I'm on my lunch break. Hopefully this is a good fun lunch break. Yeah, 6:30 a.m. Okay, that's not too early. I mean, I wake up at like 5:30 when I go to bed on time. So, you know, it depends, it depends, it depends. Okay, 8 a.m. in Brazil. Fair enough. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. But anyway, guys, without further ado, let's get straight into the topics for today. So the first topic, of course, that I really wanted to talk about is Nike Skims. Now, the reason why talking about Nike Skims is important is this is a very, very revolutionary partnership, especially when we look at the face of sportswear, especially concerning women and women's sports in general. And it's quite interesting because I've seen many people talk about Nike Skims in just the fact that, you know, Nike is working with Skims, but I haven't really seen too many people actually analyzing why it happened, why it makes sense, and why Nike really wanted this deal to go ahead. So for people that don't know, Skims is a brand that was founded by Kim Kardashian with Emma and John's Greed, who are the co-founders with Kim Kardashian. When people talk about Skims, they only talk about Kim. I don't know why. She's not the only person that founded it. And it's been very, very successful, as most of you know. The brand has a very strong focus on, you know, compression clothing, shapewear, but shapewear that's comfortable, which not like it didn't exist, but it wasn't too common before Kim. And I think an even bigger reason why Skims is so successful is it caters to many different body types, and it also has championed diversity. When you think of a lot of their campaigns, it is very diverse, and I know that's an aspect of Skims that people really, really love when it comes to the brand. There's also a broad selection of colors concerning Skims shapewear, which means that it's suitable for people of all different skin tones to wear it, and also it can work with many different colors, so you can pair it with different colors of clothing. So many, many reasons why Skims is successful. And even Skims' official slogan, actually, like if you go on their website, it says solutions for everybody. And so it's clear that it's a focus that the brand is trying to find a solution for women of a multitude of body types, multitude of sizes, multitude of races, multitude of skin tones, essentially. So that has been kind of the push for Skims. As of July 2023, Skims was actually valued at $4 billion. So it's a brand that has done really well. And that's why it personally came at no surprise to me when it was announced that Nike Skims was a thing, right? That Nike would be having this multi-year partnership with Skims. And so for people that aren't aware, it's not like a collaboration. It's a literal multi-year partnership. Think of Adidas Y3, where it's a partnership between Yohji Yamamoto and Adidas, but it's been going on for years, and there's specific clothing that's made for that Y3 collaboration. That's kind of what Nike Skims will be. So Nike Skims is a multi-year deal with Nike and Skims, and they are making specific Nike Skims collections. And it's really, you know, they're trying to enter different categories. So the clothing is going to be focused on things like yoga, wellness, but also clothing that can be worn casually, but also for sports. And that's actually a segment that is very underserved by Nike, which is one of the reasons why they wanted to collaborate with Skims. Also, when you think of what Nike has been doing over the years, Nike has really started to align itself with a lot of luxury brands. Of course, you guys will probably think of, the Virgil Abloh stuff with Louis Vuitton and Nike, right? The Air Force Ones, things like that. So that's a way that Nike has slowly been trying to align itself with the world of luxury. There are also collaborations that might come to mind. I think 2 years ago or so, they worked with Tiffany & Co., which is a very famous jewelry maker. And so they're really trying to enter lifestyle. They've been competing with Adidas, not successfully. I'm sure many of you are aware. In recent times, Nike's financial performance has not been fantastic, and they're really trying to find ways to kind of take some understandings from what Adidas is doing to find out and figure out how a lot of their clothing isn't just, regulated to people going to the gym or playing sports. They want people to wear their clothing for casual things and for it to be cool on a lifestyle basis, because that's how they make more money, if people are wearing your shoes not just for, to play basketball, to play football or whatever. So that's kind of what they're really, really focusing on. I also think this partnership makes a lot of sense because me being a football fan and a sports fan, I have seen that Nike in general has been more and more focused on women's sports, right? And just supporting women. So this partnership with Skims, a brand that's co-founded by women, makes a lot of sense, right? It makes all the sense in the world why they would do that. I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again. It was only recently in 2023 that Nike introduced a football boot called the Phantom Luna. Now, the Phantom Luna was very revolutionary because a lot of women, when they used to play football, they used to wear the football boots that men wear because that was all that was available. However, men and women are not the same biologically, and women have very different hip positions. And what that meant is that when they used to wear those football boots that were made for men, they were tested on men, all these things, Nike did research and found out that a lot of female athletes were being injured because the way that men's boots are designed isn't optimal for their bone structure, right? So a lot of women would have like ACL tears, MCL tears, all because of how the boots are. So Nike introduced the boot called the Phantom Luna that actually takes all this research and creates a boot that actually makes sure and minimizes the risk of injury for female athletes, specifically in this case in football, right? So there's like studs in a certain position to, take into account these things. Like here it says on the Nike website, after years of study from Nike's team of scientists and engineers, Phantom Luna features a new breakthrough circular stud pattern near the toes designed to help reduce the risk of knee injury caused by rotational traction. Named Nike Cyclone 360, this traction pattern allows players to move with agility, precision, and confidence on the pitch. So this is something that Nike, of course, has put a lot of research to and money towards. There are so many other things we can look to. I mean, if we look at the fact that women's sports in general has seen record highs in viewership, which is why Nike, of course, is also putting a lot more money into women's sports and into women's wear specifically, and not just making generic women's wear where they test it on male athletes, which means that none of it is really catered to women. They're kind of working more in focusing their research on women's though. And then also we're going to have things like Caitlin Clark, for example. For people that don't know Caitlin Clark, she's a woman NBA player. Because of her and many other players like Angel Reese, there has been a massive increase in viewership of women's basketball. I mean, if you look at articles like this, for example, the Las Vegas Aces had to change their venue when they were going to play against Indiana's, which is Caitlin Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, because the capacity was not enough for Caitlin Clark fans. So overall, there is a trend of women's sports trending upwards, which is an amazing thing. And normally when these things happen, it means more research goes into women's sports, more money goes into it, more clothing is catered towards female athletes. And so bringing that back into Skims, this is why it makes a lot of sense why they would, invest in Skims. And then also in Bloomberg, when you look at stuff like this, right, you can see that Nike's overall women's sales have stalled. And so Nike Skims is actually something that can come in and actually help sell women's clothing, because Skims is very women-centric and it's catered towards women. So that might be something that pushes women to, buying more Nike products, which will mean that their women's sales will be even stronger. And that's something that Bloomberg even mentioned in this article, that with their sales stalling, there's, a lot of things that can lead to the sales of their women's goods going very, very well. Someone said Kim is known for body dysmorphia surgery and etc. How does it work with a brand that is supposed to celebrate human body excellence, best athlete? So obviously it is a contradiction. Like Kim Kardashian did. Like, I genuinely believe that the reason why BBLs are so like such a famous procedure is partially because of Kim Kardashian. There are many other factors. So that's definitely true, but I don't think they're looking at it in terms of that. They're looking at it in terms of the category of women's wear and how that would work with a sportswear brand. Because of course, Skims is kind of like they're looking at yoga being a big buzzing thing, and Skims, just working within that, right? That's kind of how they're looking at it. They're looking at it from a market standpoint. But what you're saying is very valid in terms of like Kim has literally led to so much body dysmorphia in the world, and it's kind of weird for a brand that is supposed to be celebrating the human body's excellence and the excellence of athletes and physical achievements. There's kind of a contradiction there. I definitely agree with that statement that was posed. But yeah, so for all these reasons, it makes a lot of sense why these things are happening. Even Dami is saying in the chat that Skims is competing with Lululemon. That's definitely very true. Nike is so desperate they have enough money to get real talents to work on real innovation. I mean, but they do that though. I don't think that's a fair critique, only because one of the big issues and the big reason, well, there are two reasons why Nike has had bad financial performance. The first reason is a lot of the things that they have created in recent times isn't really resonating with customers. So what Nike has been doing that people don't like is they have been retroing and slightly changing old shoes and making them worse in the eyes of a lot of sneakerheads. So people aren't really interested. People are saying that Nike is not innovating. And you have to be very specific, because I think that Nike is extremely innovative when it comes to new materials, new sportswear things. But in terms of just silhouette and aesthetic, the innovation hasn't really been there. And a lot of their, best designs are very far in the past, and they really need to work hard to make new designs that really hit. I think the Vapor Maxes definitely did that, but they need more shoes. I mean, a lot of the new shoes that they've released recently haven't really hit. And that's why, Adidas is really, really competing with them, because of things like the Sambas, because of things like the Spezials that everyone is wearing with jeans, which is what Nike wants. They want a shoe that is going to trend the way that Sambas are trending. Of course, they have things like Air Force Ones that people will always wear, all these different things, but they really need that hero product that doesn't exist for them right now. The second reason why Nike has had really bad financial performance is because they overestimated their value in a way, and they cut ties. I'm not sure how many of you remember when this happened, but in 2022, Nike cut ties with a lot of retailers to focus on direct-to-consumer sales. This is something that a lot of brands are doing. I mean, we looked at the financial reports for Gucci. Kering as a whole, their strategy right now is looking at D2C and really removing a lot of stockists and reducing stockists worldwide. So this is nothing new. However, in the case of Nike, I think they underestimated how important their own retailers were. And after they cut ties with retailers, they saw really bad financial performance and realized very quickly that they needed the retailers. But they've already destroyed their relationships with their retailers by cutting ties. And now they're going back to their retailers, trying to get them back. And now they're having to sign deals that were worse off than the ones they had, because now these retailers have all the leverage. They know Nike is struggling. They know Nike is basically begging them. So they literally have the balls in their court now. So they can just be like, well, okay, we want this amount of money and we want to have these products and we want to have the higher tier of Nike products and stuff like that. So they completely shot themselves in the foot by deciding to cut ties with retailers. And so these are all the different issues that Nike has been facing. So this is why Nike performance has been really, really bad. Culture said, didn't they cut a lot of the in-house employees and their digital marketing doesn't hit? I was just looking on their site and I was shocked. Yeah, this is facts. Where Adidas is really destroying them, and Adidas has so many good campaigns recently. Like you think of Anthony Edwards with the AE1s, talking about the Peach State and all that sort of stuff. That rollout was really, really good. So Adidas has just been, even the collaborations that Adidas has been doing, the fact that they work with Grace Wells Bonner. They had Grace Wells Bonner design the Jamaica kit. They're having her collaborations on the runaway. Like Adidas right now just seems to get it. Whereas I think Nike is a bit behind when it comes to decisions that they're making, the marketing, but also, just cutting ties with retailers and doing all that other funny stuff that they've been up to. Let me just see what you guys are saying in the chat. I feel like I'm slightly behind. Kocha says, yeah, I read an article about how vital retail was for their brand. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking, because normally they are supposed to do research. Like, not every brand is the same. And it's kind of weird when companies are like, well, every brand is focusing on direct to consumer, so let's focus on direct to consumer. Like, you actually need to do research and see how important it is. And if it works for your own company, you're not just supposed to blindly do things just because every other massive company is doing it. And they've suffered greatly for that decision. They've really, really suffered for that. Grassroots marketing Nike got from the customizing of their trainers was super massive. They really underestimated what that meant for their organic growth and cultural footprint. Yeah, I also think that the big issue with Nike these days is the fact that they don't invest in a lot of grassroots things compared to like when I was growing up. Like when I was growing up, they had basketball tournaments in London, like Midnight Madness and all this stuff. I think there's normally like an effect when people that play grassroots sports are influenced by the brands that they see. And then as they progress in their careers or as they progress as people, those are the brands that they are familiar with. And so when you neglect grassroots sports, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And in the past, when they did do grassroots sports and invest a lot in it, they saw a lot of growth. Now you have brands that are killing Nike, not completely because of course Nike is still way bigger than these brands, but these brands are very quickly taking Nike's market share. We have brands like On Running, New Balance has been doing really, really well recently. And that's a big, big mistake that Nike has also been making. Yeah, when it comes to performance as a runner, it's never Nike. Exactly, Siobhan. Exactly. So all across the board, it's just been bad decision after the other. And that's why, going back to this Skims collab, this is why it makes sense, because they need something that can really move the needle. And I also found out that this partnership has actually been in talks for more than a year, which means that actually they've been working really hard behind the scenes. And this was always the cat out of the bag that they had to kind of fix their financial issues. Like I said earlier, when the Skims partnership was announced, their share prices went up by 6%. So clearly there was, something very, very good about it financially for them. Heavy on running. I only get spikes from New Balance. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I run sometimes. I'm not the biggest runner, but my running shoes are Hoka Gaviotas. I can't wear Nike shoes for running, funny enough, because I need stability shoes, and I just don't think Nike has any good stability shoes. In fact, I think they only have one like proper stability shoe in their lineup, and it's not really that good. So that's some food for thought if someone from Nike is watching right now. Helena says, wouldn't direct-to-consumer work best for brands that have a stronger cult following and community building versus a brand that depends a lot on the average consumer, which is where department stores, etc. perform best? Yeah, so if you're like a luxury brand, direct-to-consumer makes more sense because you're trying to provide a very specific customer experience that keeps them coming back. And you can also communicate your brand a lot better. However, if you're like a mass market, everyday consumer brand like Nike is, you have to use other retailers. Like, you cannot survive because you need to be everywhere. That's the only way you make money. Nike is the kind of brand that everyone needs to have access to buy. It needs to be in every store everywhere in the world. That's how Nike works. most people do not buy Nike from Nike's website. That's not like how that works compared to like luxury brands where a higher percentage of people will buy stuff directly from the website or directly from their own flagship stores, right? Also, people know that they can get stuff cheaper from other retailers than they can from Nike directly. So I rarely buy Nike products from Nike directly because I know I can go to sportshoes.com and get stuff for cheaper, or Sports Direct and find stuff on sale, right? So that's also another really, really big thing. Dami says, talking about 1,000 cuts, loads of little things made Nike fumble the bag. Yeah, like we've been talking throughout, there are many, many different issues that have led to the downfall of Nike, as we have discussed. To me, it makes no sense to sell shoes and not have stores because it's so important to try them on for comfort. That's also a very good point because, I mean, everyone tries on shoes, especially running shoes. Like everyone goes into, the stores and tries on the shoes and sees if it fits properly. And so being like, yeah, we're only going to be direct to consumer and everyone's going to buy from our website, it just didn't really make a lot of sense. Like people are more likely to try on shoes of sportswear brands that they're going to use for, actual sports like running and playing different sports than luxury shoes. A lot of people don't really try shoes on. They kind of just like, they buy it online. They're like, let me see, it might fit, it might not fit. But people are less likely to do that with sportswear from what I've noticed. Yeah, the problem with direct-to-consumer counteracted with how people wanted to shop post-pandemic, which is outside. Direct-to-consumer works when people are online. People want to wear the Nike in real life. For that, they need to be outside. Yeah, facts. Pure facts, pure facts, pure facts. So yeah, like I said earlier, the range of Nike Skims will mainly be focused on apparel that enhances the wearer's performance, but also can be worn on the running track and the yoga mat, which is kind of what they're really, really going for. These are the venues that Nike is really trying to seek prowess and try to compete with the likes of Lululemon and stuff that has been collecting a lot of Nike's market share. Also, there was an executive from Nike that talked about the collaboration between Skims and the North Face selling out very quickly as an encouraging reason why they think that, the Nike Skims partnership will really, really work, because it shows that Skims has a real cult following and they can really move products in a very fast way. Yeah, I think feet are even more diverse than body shape. Not wearing the shoe before buying is insane for me. Yeah, I think it's absolutely insane too, but I mean, I've worked in fashion long enough to know that a lot of luxury consumers just don't care. Because so much, remember, we talk about this all the time, right? But luxury brands are not footwear brands. They're not like Nike. Like, they don't put as much research and development on different foot shapes and stuff. They have to make collections every season. So they're not developing shoes for 2-3 years like Nike would, right? How long does it take a luxury brand to develop a pair of heels? Not really that long. So they don't have enough time to consider actual practical things, like exactly how can we keep changing the materials used in these heels to make sure that they're comfortable to wear, because the collections have to be made so quickly. So that's why the typical luxury consumer that buys luxury footwear doesn't really care that much. They just don't, because the luxury footwear isn't made for people that actually care about wearing comfortable shoes, or shoes that are catered to, being the best thing for your feet, right? Exactly what Tarek is saying. It's a conceptual thing if they do that kind of research. Facts. Exactly that. I think people tend to normalize foot pain too. So you'll often find people wearing shoes 2 sizes too small, not realize it until a pediatrician said. Do you know what's actually funny about this, right? That's why a lot of models, for example, have really messed up feet. Like, if you notice, a lot of fashion models, their feet are like really bent. They have bunions. They have all sorts of foot issues because they're forced into wearing all these badly designed fashion shoes that aren't really good for your feet. And when you wear that over the course of a career, the only outcome is that you have messed up toes and your toes are smashed into bits, right? So yeah, anyway, all that to say that that's why it's way more important for a sportswear brand where people actually care about the fit and stuff like that to actually have stores all around the world where people can try things on. And I think that Nike really, really, really underestimated that. They really, really did. But let's read the statement that they wrote on Nike's website. It says, "Body obsessed. We heard you loud and clear. You want to look good and feel good. That's why Nike and Skims are teaming up to introduce a new brand, Nike Skims. Grounded in innovation and unrivaled belief in women, Nike Skims products are designed to sculpt and engineered to perform. Stay in the know by adding Nike Skims as an interest on your member profile." Yeah, that's if you want to get updates. Which, normally, a lot of these statements tend to be a lot of like dribble drabble, which is what I like to say. However, this is actually facts because I mean, Skims itself is all about sculpting around the body. And Nike obviously is one of the premier sportswear brands that puts a lot of money into research and development. So you bring those two things together and it might lead to a lot of fireworks. It might lead to a lot of big, big things happening. Also, they said that very soon products will be released in the US, and next year a lot of products will start to be released globally. So all my Americans watching, you guys will get the stuff first, and I will be looking very closely to see what the general response is around Nike Skims online when it happens. So yeah, that is the deal with Nike and Skims and why, you know, it makes sense and kind of what Nike is going for. And yeah, interesting to see where that goes and if it really, really hits on all fronts. I used to model and 2 of my toes are hammered, but I've seen models with worse foot problems. It's especially chronic with models and people with narrow feet, heels and ankles. Yeah, exactly what I said. Like I said, because I work in fashion, I know for a fact that a lot of models have messed up feet, and it's because of how badly made most luxury footwear is. So yeah, just going back into my point about the fact that luxury brands don't really consider what actual footwear brands consider when they design footwear. Like, do you know how long it takes Nike to release do you know how long it takes Nike to release new footwear? It takes ages. They have to do so much product testing and research. Like, they do loads. Whereas a luxury brand, literally, how many collections luxury brands will produce on the low end? A major luxury brand that makes footwear, because smaller brands don't have the resources to make footwear, so it's normally the bigger brands. They have spring, summer men's, spring, summer women's, fall, winter men's, fall, winter women's. That's 4 collections. And then they have to do resort and then maybe another holiday collection. So at minimum, 6 collections that will have different footwear. 6 different collections with different types of footwear is insane. That means there's barely any research and development happening in terms of the footwear. And if any, it's only for weeks, maybe months. Whereas Nike literally has athletes wearing this stuff, product testing it for months and months to years before this stuff ever gets released to the public. So there's a huge difference. I don't even think it's comparable to compare like a sportswear or footwear brand with a luxury brand making footwear. Like, they're completely 2 different things entirely. Like, they're not even closely related at all, in my opinion. But yeah, next, of course, someone I really want to talk about is Waight Keller. Waight Keller, of course, as you guys know, is the creative director of Uniqlo. She's been there for a little while now. When she was announced as the creative director of Uniqlo, I did cover it. This was because, and fashion is still in this phase, there was a lot of fashion musical chairs. Waight Keller was a free agent at the time. She was linked with a lot of brands that were popping up with vacancies at the time. And then it was eventually announced that she was the creative director of Uniqlo. Of course, she has her own line at Uniqlo called Uniqlo-C. She also designs the mainline stuff. And she does say that a lot of her ideas that she uses for Uniqlo-C, she wants that to filter into the everyday wear of Uniqlo and the mainline, which is why it's very important and interesting to see what she's doing with Uniqlo-C, to see how that influences the wider range that Uniqlo sells. So that's why it's very, very interesting. I, of course, personally, I'm very interested in Uniqlo-C and what she's doing, just on a like seeing what is available to bigger markets and how that influences fashion trends, seeing it from that perspective. So that's why I'm very interested. For people that don't know, Waight Keller is an extremely seasoned fashion designer. She's been designing for different fashion brands for years. Like I said, she's the current creative director of Uniqlo. As you can see here on BOF, she's been in many different roles. She's been a senior designer at Gucci. She was there when Tom Ford was there. She was also there for a little bit when it was John Ray, Alessandra Faccinetti, and Frida Giannini that were doing a lot of things there. She has also been a artistic director at Givenchy, creative director at Chloe. Here, I think they didn't update it because it says 2017 to present. So that needs to be updated. But she did leave Givenchy in 2020. So they need to update that there. But yeah, so Waight Keller is actually quite... I remember when she was announced as the creative director at Uniqlo, it was quite shocking because you would just think that her design skills are a bit too advanced, to be honest, for a brand like Uniqlo. However, it also makes sense because it means, it actually allows Waight Keller to have designs that influence a wider range of fashion. And it also influences a wide array of what actual people are wearing on the streets. And I know lots of designers get a lot of satisfaction from that. I mean, even you think of the likes of Yohji Yamamoto. Yohji Yamamoto is very famous for making statements like saying that the big reason why he wanted to start Y3 was because he was looking on the streets of Paris and the streets of Tokyo, and he noticed that because a lot of his clothing, his mainline, isn't accessible, he doesn't see as much people wearing his clothes, and he really wants his clothing to influence what people actually wear on the streets. And that's why the idea of Y3 even came to be. So I know lots of designers get a lot of satisfaction from dressing people and influencing the style of the everyday person, which I think Waight Keller is in a perfect position to do. This, what you're looking at on the screen, is the campaign that's on Waight Keller's Instagram of the latest Uniqlo-C collection, the Spring-Summer 25 collection for men's and women's. And she, like she said, it's her personal favorite edits from the campaign. So it's very interesting that that's what she enjoys. On Uniqlo's own Instagram as well, they have announced the Spring-Summer 25 Uniqlo-C collection, and they've talked about some of the top-selling items from the collaboration, which we will end up looking at. But it's interesting just to see like the wide sleeve shirts, which I actually really enjoy, by the way, wide cargo pants, the gathered dresses with the adjustable fits, the wide balloon pants, soft puffy shoulder bag. And it's funny because these are very much like Waight Keller. It's very Waight Keller Givenchy, like very clean lines, clean aesthetic, just done in a more wearable way because it's Uniqlo, right? So I find all of that very interesting. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comments. Interested in their females footwear offerings that they'll roll out around the Skims Park. Oh, okay, you're talking about Nike still. Let's go Uniqlo-C cargo shorts. Yeah. Siobhan says, yeah, that's cool. Sounds like a seamless partnership. I was wondering if people have told her about the position with them, because we all know how snobby the industry is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were being very trolly about it, but I can very much understand why she would be there. Also, we need to remember money too. Like Fast Retailing, which owns Uniqlo, has a lot of money because Uniqlo makes a lot of money. So I don't know what her salary is, but it could actually be higher than when she was at Givenchy, funny enough. So that could also be another reason that led her to the Uniqlo job. I think some of us forget how big some of these like fast fashion brands are. Like they're huge. They are huge, like really, really huge. Luke says, unfortunate because the designs are so great, but the fabric compositions are heavy polyester blends. And yeah, that's also one drawback to Waight Keller's Uniqlo, because as great of a designer that she is, she can't really, she has no control over the supply chain. It's just going to be the same supply chains. It's not like she's going to tell Uniqlo, don't produce in this factory, produce in that factory. And so they're going to make things more affordable, and there's going to be a lot of polyester and, really low quality fabrics used, even if the shapes are really great. That's just a really big issue. But I guess a good thing is at least you can get the clear Waight Keller aesthetic at a more affordable price. I think that's what is more great about it. But yeah, there's pros and cons, like we've been mentioning. This is really cool, like the bomber jacket with the. Is that a side zip or is that just like a? Okay, it's like a slit. It's not actually a zip. It's a slit. That's really cool. That's cool. It adds a shape. Okay, it's also waterproof. Um, I just like clear Waight Keller shapes. Like I like that when like stuff like this, for example, when she does a shirt, the sleeves are really relaxed and wide because I don't like shirts with tight sleeves. I like shirts with these sort of wider sleeves. This is definitely like the kind of shape of shirt I like, and it's cropped in the body. You guys know this. I talk about it all the time, but I have a very short torso and really long legs. So any shirt that's cropped in the body works perfectly for me. And this actually is perfect. Elongated sleeves, wider sleeves, and then also a cropped in the body. Like that is literally perfect for someone like me. Completely perfect. Okay, it said adjustable side, maybe a zip. Okay, I need to look at it again. Siobhan says great color, yeah. I think the worst one in how it went from design to actual product is the pleated dress because it looks so flat. I do like the rest quite a bit. Just had to fix my internet quickly. It disconnected for a second. But yeah, let's go back into the Uniqlo stuff. Let's go back into Uniqlo stuff, guys. Okay, let's have a look, guys. Let's have a look. Let's see what's going on. Um, 1 second. Let's see. Have a look at all the products before I start looking at them closely. This tank top thing is very funny. Do you know what this white tank top reminds me of? There was a time in fashion when every brand was doing like a chic white tank top. So we had Bottega Veneta doing one. This is when Matteo Blasi was still at Bottega. We had Prada doing a white vest. We had Gabriella Hearst at Chloe doing one. We had Claire Waight Keller and Givenchy doing a chic white vest. So it reminds me of like a few years ago when everyone was trying to make the ultimate chic white vest, and it seems like she hasn't gotten away from that. Very interesting. Everyone just trying to make that perfect chic white dress. Okay, we've got some oversized hoodies that are really cool because once again they have the wide sleeves that I really love. Okay, an oversized cotton dress with the short sleeves but long short sleeves, like half sleeve in a sense. Okay, is this the pleated dress? Oh yeah, it does look really flat. Oh yeah, it definitely looks really flat. These aren't the best pleats at all. I can see exactly what you were saying in the chat, by the way. I can really see that. Yeah, I've liked most of the looks in this collection, but yeah, this is actually one of the looks that isn't that great. Yeah, and these, because the pleats are also not that great, I can imagine that if you store them the wrong way or whatever, it can completely remove the pleats. Like, totally. Like, when someone walks, like, look at her knee, the model's knee. In that position, the pleat should not be, like, completely flat like that. No. That's not that great. That's not fantastic. But yeah, outside of that, though, I'm really enjoying this collection. The shirt with the really, really short sleeves. I really, really like the collection. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's a really, really nice, strong collection by Uniqlo standards, anyway. This is really cool. Unfortunately, I'm not a 5'6" woman. Otherwise, I would have like maybe gotten some stuff from it. Of course, it's still fast fashion, so you have to think like what fabrics are being made, and I'll probably have to like see if I can go to a store where the stuff is available and actually try some stuff on, feel the fabrics, and see what I deem could last a long time. Because as you guys know, I don't really buy clothes that often, and when I do, I buy stuff that has to last a long time because I buy clothes with the sole intention of wearing it into the ground. So that's kind of a drawback to the Uniqlo because it would be hard for me to buy a lot of Uniqlo-C despite loving it aesthetically because of how it's made and the fabrics being used. This ecom brand I used to work for in Chadwell Heath had their overseas production done at the same factory in China that did their outerwear. Are you talking about Uniqlo? Interesting. Interesting. But yeah, I think it's a very, very solid collection. Let me look at the menswear side. I always have to look at women's wear first because women's wear is always more interesting, just inherently. Um, Also, talking about the press release, by the way, while you guys look at the campaign. So, this collection is actually named Essentials for City Life. So, this collection is supposed to be a collection that gives you like elevated city wear that you can wear, you know, while you're walking past cityscapes and then an urban landscape, right? Is how they were kind of putting it in the press release, which is like, you know, they have to write all this stuff. It's just like, yeah, this cool to wear in a city. We can leave it there. But it's really, really cool. It's very fuss free. It's very wearable. I like it. And I covered when Claire Waight Keller first joined Uniqlo and she did this really big interview on her intentions. I think that was with Vogue, but you can find that live stream if you guys want to watch it. But she talked about her intentions for her time at Uniqlo and how a lot of her Uniqlo-C collections are going to inform the main line and how she doesn't just want to make all this like specialty stuff for Uniqlo-C. She really wants to, you know, refine what Uniqlo does in a broader sense. So that's kind of been her stick. She kind of wants to blend sort of like easy to wear functionality that's known with Uniqlo with a certain elegance and practicality and interesting silhouette that she's known for. And so that's kind of why I find her Uniqlo really appealing so far and why, even though she hasn't done that much at Uniqlo, I've really enjoyed what she's done at Uniqlo so far. But anyway, let's look at some of the menswear looks and see what they've got for us lads. What do they have available for us lads? This block tech coat is quite nice. I like the shape. I also, once again, going back to the wide sleeve shirt, it's all of me. I do not like the collar. Not the biggest fan of the collar, but I like the wide sleeves. I would prefer if this was kind of a slightly more cropped, to be honest. It seems like the women's looks are cropped and the men's aren't. I would prefer if they were slightly cropped. Yeah, love the shirts with the wide sleeves. Absolutely love the shape of these shirts. Like, completely love the shape. The short sleeves, neither here nor there. Obviously, they do have wide sleeves, but the effect isn't as pronounced when it's a short sleeve shirt compared to a long sleeve. So I think with a long sleeve, it really hits. Okay, let's see what else. They've got one knitwear piece. Okay, so the men don't get a wife beater. We get the knitted vests. They're cool. We've got them in different colors. Let me have a look. I haven't been looking at the fabrics, but let's have a look. Features. Let's see. Material composition and care instructions. 72% viscose, 28% polyester. I mean, for knitwear though, that's a bit insane. For knitwear, that is a bit insane. Like, no wool for knitwear, bit crazy. Yeah, that's a bit insane. And that's like the big issue because the silhouettes are always going to be amazing, but then you start looking at the fabrics and you're like, viscose and polyester knitwear. Like, there's a place, I always say this thing, right? Because there are a lot of people that think in every single regard, polyester is bad. I just don't agree with that. Like, there are so many performance advantages of using polyester in certain garments. However, if you're making knitwear, then there's no performance. Like, that's a specific case where it can't be because of performance. Like, it's not a waterproof vest. It's a knitted vest. So having it full of polyester and viscose in this sense is actually just using really bad synthetic fabrics. But there are certain experimental applications where you use polyester and it's actually probably way better than most natural fabrics for a certain specific use case. However, in this case, no. No. It's supposed to be a knitted vest. There's no reason to use polyester in a knitted vest, to be honest. So in that case, then yeah, there's no excuse. But I do think that a lot of people paint polyester with that brush of like, oh, it's polyester bad. I think it's a case by case basis. But yeah, knitted vest should not be made out of polyester. It's as simple as that. But okay, this stuff is cool. They kind of have a lot of the similar stuff, like the tailoring. I like that the shapes are similar with the wide sleeves and stuff. The really slouchy fit, but then cropped in the body. I really enjoy that. Okay, they've got some footwear. These kind of like Japanese-esque sandals. They kind of look like a Uniqlo version of Suicokes in a way. That's really cool. I guess everyone's wearing sandals now, eh? Sun's out, toes out. Is that the new thing that we're going for? But yeah, all in all, my verdict of Claire Waight Keller at Uniqlo is great. The fabrics is nothing really to do with her. I mean, she's a designer. Like, she's not going to tell them, oh, it's not a luxury brand. Like, she can't tell them, oh, let's use all merino wool, because if they're using like super high quality fabrics, then the price goes up. Then it's no longer really Uniqlo. Now it's kind of like a luxury brand under the Uniqlo umbrella, which is not what people go to Uniqlo for. People go to Uniqlo for more affordable clothing. Hopefully something could be done to slightly improve the fabrics, even though she has no control over that. But when it comes to the silhouettes and shapes and what she's doing at Uniqlo in that regard, I am a big fan. I really, really like what she's doing. How come people ask for wool when most dry their clothes with hot tumble dry? I mean, I like wool. I never use a dryer. Genuinely, I cannot remember the last time I dried my clothes in a dryer. I always air dry it. Like I've not used a dryer in years. Like definitely since I got into fashion properly. So I was maybe like 20 years old, maybe 19, 20 is like when I was working in fashion since 18, but when I was really like started to learn about how to properly take care of all different fabrics, I was about 19, 20. So that's like 8-9 years ago. I haven't used the dryer since then. So me personally, I prefer wool because I don't use dryers. But yeah, it's a good point because a lot of people always ask for all these fabrics and they don't even know how to take care of the fabrics. And then they destroy the fabric and then they say that, oh, this brand makes bad quality garments. And it's like, no, you just didn't care for the garment correctly. You didn't read the care label properly. Like a lot of people will like buy clothing that is very clearly and obviously not machine washable. You're supposed to take it to the dry cleaner and then they slap it in a washing machine and it gets destroyed and they're like, yeah, I washed it once and everything disintegrated. And I'm like, can I have a look at the care label? It says you shouldn't wash it in a washing machine. It says it's not suitable for machine washing and you just did that. That's crazy. People in the US are so accustomed to clothing dryers. When I moved to the UK and lived elsewhere in Europe, I had to get used to doing without them. Maybe it's also a more common thing in the US, but in the UK too, a lot of people use dryers. Like even in my house, there's a dryer. And because you guys know, well, some of you might not know, but I live in my parents' house. So when my family is around, they use the dryer because they could care less and they're not into fashion the way that I am. So they don't necessarily know how to care for their clothes. And it's more just about saving time. That's why they use the dryer. But yeah, I would never use it, to be fair. Completely damage my clothes and shrink my clothes too, which I don't want to happen. So that's why I wouldn't really do that. I feel like for athletic / athleisure wear, you need dryers. Really? From my experience, first of all, I don't use dryers, like I said. From my experience, athletic wear dries faster when I air dry it, because athletic wear is like a lot of it is like dry fit and stuff, so it's made to be sweat wicking. It's supposed to not retain moisture, so it gets rid of moisture very easily. So normally when I air dry stuff, the stuff that I can remove the quickest is normally the sportswear, and it's normally the wool and the cotton that just absorbs liquid that takes forever to dry. That's actually the hardest stuff to dry. So I don't actually know that to be true, to be fair. I think actually from my experience, it's the athletic wear that needs the dryer the least, to be honest. And probably heat would probably damage your athletic wear the most because a lot of that stuff is polyester. A lot of athletic wear is made in synthetic fabrics, and heat would damage your stuff very quickly. Like that's how microplastics end up in your washing machine. Your washing machine and your dryer starts to become a house for microplastics. I think heat definitely causes that. Purple Rain says maybe it's just me using Amazon gym pants. Yeah, because like athletic wear to me dries so easily because it's made to be that way, like extremely easily. Yeah, I never dry my athletic wear unless it's very, very old and I don't care about it anymore. That's fair enough. Getting that plastic and spandex cooked in the dryer. Don't put synthetics in the dryer. Yeah, you really shouldn't. You're really going to damage it. I grew up pretty poor, so we either went to the laundromat or hung our clothes. I'm from the US and lived in the city. Not everyone has access to dryers in the US. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of funny because obviously using a dryer is really expensive anyhow you cut it. If you have to go to the laundromat, you have to spend extra money to use a dryer. If you have a dryer at home, dryers are one of the appliances that takes the most electricity. So if you're using your dryer a lot, your electricity bill is going way up. So either way, it's like more expensive and simultaneously it's worse for your clothing. So it's quite funny that doing the cheaper thing is actually better for your clothing. But yeah, a lot of people use dryers. I think most people just do it because it's convenient. You can have your stuff dry like in an hour or two. That's the main reason why people use it, to be honest, more so than anything else. So yeah, but yeah, please, guys, don't wash. And even in a washing machine, guys, expert tip: try to wash your clothes on the lowest temperature. I know a lot of people that in a washing machine, they turn everything up to 60 degrees Celsius and stuff like that, as if they're washing. I think whites are the only thing that is suitable to wash in like really high heat. And even then, I really wouldn't, because the heat will get rid of like the dirt and stuff, but it might damage the actual properties of the fabric itself. But when you're washing colors, you should just not be washing colors at really high temperatures. Like you should be cold washing your colors specifically. So expert tip, garment care 101 from me to you. So yeah, everything needs to be cold, guys. Don't be washing your clothes in crazy heat. You're just going to damage your garments. But yeah, that's the whole story and news on Claire Waight Keller's Uniqlo. Like I said, I'm a really big fan. Will I be buying a lot of it? Probably not, because the fabrics and a lot of it probably won't last the longest. However, if like they did change a lot of the fabric compositions, I definitely would look into maybe buying a few pieces. But we'll see. We'll see. Let me know what your thoughts are on Claire Waight Keller's Uniqlo. Now, the last story is actually going to be a long one, but I think it's very interesting. At least it's interesting to me. But a lot has been going on with Saks Global. A lot of stuff has been going on with Saks Global. For people that don't know, Saks Global is the holding company that owns Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, Saks Fifth Avenue, and a few other things. So when I refer to Saks Global, just know that I'm using the umbrella term for the company that owns all these things. They are having huge issues all over the place. Now, I'm going to give you a summary, then we're going to read, because there's a lot to look through, because the story has just been changing. Every day, there's a new thing that's been going on with this whole thing. But basically, they cannot pay their retailers. They don't have the cash flow. They're owing a lot of their retailers money. A lot of their retailers are really mad, rightfully so, that they haven't been paid, and they have delayed payments and stuff like that. And so they're just having issues. They've laid off a lot of staff. They're closing down the flagship store for Neiman Marcus, which has literally been the flagship store for years, like so many years. They're closing it down. So a lot of things are going wrong. And the first thing that this really reminds me of, and something that I really wanted to talk about, is the collapse of matches fashion. And why I really want to talk about this is this wider understanding of why a lot of luxury brands now are focusing more on direct to consumer. You guys will remember when I talked about Le Mer, I did that really, I believe, good analysis on Le Mer, right? And when I did that analysis on Le Mer, I talked about how they've really focused on direct to consumer and how they've made a lot of money. This is the article that I really focused on via BOF. It was a very, very good article. They had a lot of the stats and figures in this article talking about the financial growth of Le Mer and kind of what percentage exactly was direct to consumer. And the fact that they had a really high sell-through rate was really also big. And you can kind of use Le Mer's business model as kind of like a basis for where fashion is going and where a lot of luxury brands are trying to go, right? This sort of direct to consumer, focusing on your e-commerce, all these kind of things. And we've seen this across the fashion industry. We've seen in the financial report of Kering, they talk about focusing on direct to consumer channels, reducing wholesaling, all that sort of stuff. So that's why, in general, wholesaling is dying. A lot of these stores are all going to die. Unfortunately, it's not like I want them to, but unfortunately, it's just the reality of where the retail business is going right now. And when Matches Fashion closed down, they were owing brands millions, like millions and millions. All brands, from big brands like the Prada and Gucci's to smaller retailers. I don't actually know if everyone got their money. I know a lot of cases where people still haven't gotten their money, which is insane. Like, can you imagine as a fashion company where one of your biggest retailers is Matches Fashion and they haven't paid you your money for, I don't know, like over a year, but you spent the money producing the clothing. You still had to pay the manufacturers. You still had to pay the people that your staff, your members of staff that made the clothing, your seamstresses, you had to pay them. You had to pay for all the other things, other components of the garments, whether that's the zips, you had to pay the zip suppliers. You had to pay the label suppliers. But you don't have any money, so you're basically way into their negative. And if that happens with enough retailers, you are going to be bankrupt. You are going to be bankrupt. And this has always been a thing in fashion, like these retailers paying late and just taking the absolute piss. However, it just shows, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize that with e-commerce now and, you know, being able to do your own marketing and all social media marketing and stuff like this, it actually makes way more sense to just be direct to consumer, to be honest. It makes way more sense. I work through the Matches administration. I feel for the staff and indie brands, yeah. And so with the big brands, the thing about the big brands, when Matches Fashion was owning them, they have legal teams and all these big teams that will ensure that they get their money one way or another. If they have to sell Matches Fashion's assets to get their money, they will do that because they have the infrastructure to do that. But if you're not a big brand, if you're a smaller brand just trying to, you know, get by, make a good living, how the hell, what legal infrastructure do you have to chase Matches Fashion and get your money from them? You don't. So they're kind of screwed. And, you know, when you read through this, you know, the fact that it says some customers of the online fashion site, which owed more than £210 million when it collapsed in March, are also unable to get refunds. £210 million. Oh my gosh. Like, it's insane. And this is why retail is dying. Because more brands are seeing stuff like this and they're like, there's no way we are going to put up with this. Like, even look, reading the article, it says designer brands including Gucci and Anya Hinmarch have been left millions of pounds out of pocket, and some customers will not get refunds after online fashion site Matches Fashion collapsed, owing more than £210 million last month. Customers who bought designer items prior to the administration are not able to return items or get a refund, according to a report by administrators published on Wednesday. So, going back to Saks and the Saks story that we're going to be covering today, it is no secret that this is the reason why so many people have lost faith in a lot of retailers. Culture says, I hope more people return to doing small scale brick and mortar stores because direct to consumer is amazing, but there's so much internet noise to cut through. I want everything luxury or down to rescale. Yeah, for sure. I think nothing beats going into a very cool store like a Dover Street Market or a Colette when Colette was around, or these stores where everything is arranged perfectly, it's conceptual, they match brands that are similar, so you might find out about new brands. Like in Dover Street Market, I find out about new brands all the time because of how the store is and how they put similar brands close to each other, so you're like, oh, that thing looks interesting, it's kind of what I would buy when you're in like a similar section. I'm a big fan of that. So it's sad that these things are leading to the death of retail, but it's just, I more feel sorry for the smaller designers because I know that it's tough. Like the fashion business is so tough. We've seen so many brands have to close down, and this is one of the big reasons why. Like most small brands, they might have like 50 retailers, but realistically, every retailer is buying like 5 jackets or like 2 trousers, 1 jacket, and like 5 shirts. It's not a lot of money. So every small brand has those 1 or 2 retailers that is responsible for like 30% of their business, 40% of their business. And it's normally like a big retailer, like a Matches Fashion or a Saks. And so if they delay a payment, that is 50% of your payroll gone. Plus you're in the negative because you're not being paid for stuff that you've paid money for. You've paid everyone that made that product, but then you've not been compensated for the sale of that product. So you're so in the negative because of it. It's insane. Siobhan says, this reminds of suing people, how you have to pay someone to get your money back or to pay for injuries, pay to play and wait, bankruptcy courts. Yeah, it's insane because the thing about it, even if you eventually get your money back, let's say 3 years later, you finally win your court case, the damage is already done because within those 3 years, you're struggling. And at any point within those 3 years before you get your money back, you might close because you can't afford to be open. So whether you get your money or not, the damage is always done. I find this whole weird thing where like people are like, oh, but they're going to get their money back. So like if someone is supposed to pay me an amount of money, like say like I was just getting by, let me even use like myself as an example instead of brands to make it easier to understand. Say I made £2,000 a month and my total bills in the month are £1,500. Now that means I'm basically damn near living close to paycheck to paycheck, because if my total bills are £1,500, which is the reality for most people living in the UK, which is why there's a cost of living crisis, that means I only have £500 left over after I've paid my necessary bills like rent, electricity, gas, stuff like that, to eat. Like that £500 left is what I'm going to eat food with, what I'm going to do everything else with. So if my employer, just for some reason was late on a payment, now I'm late on my rent payment, I'm late on my gas bill, I'm late on my electricity bill, and now I'm going to start being charged late fees, which I can't even afford, because then when I get paid, I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. I'm probably going to have to use a credit card just to even stay afloat, to even like make sure that I can pay off these late fees. So you're actually in a worse off position, even if you're still paid the money. So when I see people be like, yeah, but they're going to get their money back, that doesn't mean anything, because actually most times you end up spending way, way more money if someone doesn't give you the money when they should give you the money, especially if you're not like super rich and you just have loads of saving to tap into, which most brands are not in that position. They're just about making payroll for all their staff and stuff. So yeah, it's really tough. The fashion business is no joke. It's really, really not a joke. Yeah, that's how bankruptcy works. You're in the red and the bills are piling up, but sometimes you can negotiate terms so the bill collectors can stop bothering you temporarily. Yes, sometimes though. It's not every time that they accept the terms or they are willing to accept terms. So that's the thing, right? That's why it's very important, because the messed up thing, which is why I think this is very exploitative when it comes to these big retailers that don't pay people on time. They are in a position where they have everyone's money, so they can pick and choose what they allocate money to. So the retailers are always the people that are never in the worst position, because they can just pay you late and then use that money to pay for something that they need for their own company, while you're left to just struggle, right? Because they are the ones with the money. They are the ones with the money. They're the ones holding on to the money. So that's why I will never side with the retailers over like the smaller brands. Never, ever, ever, ever. Because they are the ones that actually have the leeway to just use your money how they like in the meantime while you haven't been paid. Big issue. But anyway, let's read this first article. There are 3 articles. I'll show you guys all of them. So the first article is Saks wanted to clear the air with brands. The plan backfired. Shortly after, BOF made a follow-up article about how they need to earn back brands' trust. And then, what do you know? Saks Global is laying off about 5% of its US corporate workers. So we'll be reading all those 3 in a row, which is why I said this might be really long. And then obviously we'll talk about kind of what has been going on during these times. So anyway, it says, relations between Saks Global and many of the 2,000 odd brands stocked in its department stores appear to be worse than ever after the owner of Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman sent a letter last week setting new payment terms. Which is funny. Key insight, Saks Global sent a letter to vendors outlining a new payment plan and a promise to pay past due balances. Despite the clarification, multiple brands told BOF this week they will no longer work with Saks, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman. To fulfill its ambitions of becoming the leading force in American luxury retail, Saks needs the cooperation of brand partners. Now, let's just stop there. A fashion store does not exist without clothing to sell. So if you are losing faith by partners, and even potential partners are looking at this whole situation going on and being like, we don't really want to be stocked with any of the Saks Global retailers because we feel like we're going to have cash flow issues and they're not going to pay us on time. That is not good for your company. You do not have a business if you are in the business of fashion retail and you have no clothing in your stores. So whatever they need to do it fast. Otherwise, they're very much going to end up like many of the other retail businesses that we've seen closing down, not too long ago. But let's read. If Saks Global intended to extend an olive branch by promising to make whole 2,000 odd brands on long delayed payments, the strategy appears to have backfired. I mean, to be honest, if you are late on a payment and then you keep telling people, oh, we're going to pay it, we're going to set new payment plans, why would you expect that they would take you seriously or they would have faith in anything that you say when you already had an agreement of payment terms and you didn't fulfill those payment terms, which is why you're setting new payment terms in the first place? Why would they expect... Some of these like companies, they're so like oblivious to any like sense that they thought that would like brands would respond favorably to them announcing new payment terms. They're just so like tone deaf a lot of times. It's really weird, really, really strange. But anyway, let's read on. In a February 14th letter sent to vendors working with Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman department stores, Chief Executive Mark Metrick acknowledged Saks' history of late payments for merchandise, laid out a plan to resolve missed or partial payments by the middle of next year, and promised to pay invoices for new orders within 90 days of receiving inventory. But the email has touched a raw nerve with many of its recipients. 4 brands told BOF this week they will no longer work with Saks, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman, and others say they plan to reduce their business with the department stores after receiving the letter. We were hoping to grow our business with Neiman this year, but after the acquisition, it looks like this won't be happening, said the founder of a Los Angeles-based contemporary brand. It's just too much of a risk right now, and that's exactly what I was alluding to before we started reading the article. For people that don't know, Saks Global, not too long ago, acquired Neiman Marcus, which is why there's a lot of talk around Saks and Neiman Marcus. For people that don't know, by the way, which is why they said that, We were hoping to grow our business with Neiman this year, but after the acquisition, it looks like it won't be happening. But anyway, reading on. Others put their reactions in stronger terms. It's so arrogant and disrespectful, one executive at a New York-based fashion brand wrote to BOF. The letter and its negative reception lays bare the challenges ahead for both Saks and the many brands whose businesses depend on wholesale. Saks needs vendors, goodwill, and their best products if it is to fulfill its ambitions of becoming the leading force in American luxury retail, which is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where I'm like, you can't be in a retail business and have no retailers and have no like brands to retail. That is literally, that business does not exist. Like just an empty shop where you're not selling anything, but you're paying rent. That like, and you have staff working at the till. That doesn't make any sense, right? In an interview with the Business of Fashion, Metric acknowledged that the late payments were not fair to Saks global brand partners. Oh, no shit, Sherlock. The fact that we are not paying brands on time and the fact that they are having cash flow issues and going into the negative and really struggling financially is not fair. No shit. No shit. And that his memo was intended to set the foundation for a new era of growth for the company. He said Saks itself has also faced rising costs as it navigates the troubled wholesale market and declining luxury market, which has caused the company to run through capital faster than anticipated. Well, guess what? The capital that you're running through actually belongs to other people because you made agreements with loads of partners that you owe money. So maybe you need to fix your business model to make sure that you're not paying people late and basically, for lack of a better term, scamming people. So no shit. It's not fair to our retailers that we don't pay them on time. No fucking shit. Like, you know, that was very hard to guess. That was very, very hard to guess. Someone is saying they're in debt. Yeah, but you need to understand that, like, as a business, it's very exploitative to be in debt and to, you know, keep onboarding new retailers because for your business, you need brands in your store under the pretense that we will pay you this amount of money by this time and then not paying them because you have financial issues. Well, if you have financial issues, maybe fix those first instead of, you know, onboarding more people that you have no intention of paying because you don't have the money to pay them. You see what I mean? So it's exploitative to even do that in the first place, knowing fully well that you have your own cash flow issues and financial issues, right? That's literally like the issue. That's the main issue. Let's see. But he also had a message for brands threatening to walk away. For a year and a half, I have heard, we just need clarity, Metric said. And so I sent a letter and I said, here's what's going on. But I have a business to run, customers to satisfy. If this is not enough clarity, or if you don't like this, then tell me so I can fill your space with other stuff. That is the most tone-deaf response I've ever read in my entire life. That is so tone-deaf. Like, you owe people money. You owe people money. To say, you know... I sent a letter and here's what's going on. So take it or leave it. And if you don't like it, tell me so I can fill your space with other stuff. Well, how about you pay them first so they can fill so they can stop retailing at your company and at your stores and go elsewhere. But they need their money first. To say, you know, if you don't like it, then tell me so I can fill your space with other stuff. You owe the money. That is the most tone-deaf thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, I honestly, in 2025, have not read a more tone-deaf thing. That is so tone-deaf. It's so insane. Like, some of these execs are so tone-deaf. Like, a lot of these people need, like, PR people on their team. Like, a lot of these people need publicists because what? What? That is crazy. That is absolutely insane. But anyway, let's read on. Sorry, I had to pause there because that is extremely tone deaf. Like, that's insane. We have a business to run. So if you don't like it, then take it or leave it. Meanwhile, they owe people money. Insane. So this article is in really nice sections. The first section is about how the relations with these brands have been deteriorating over time. So it says, ties between Saks Fifth Avenue and its vendors began deteriorating in early 2023 when brands began noticing a pattern of late or withheld payments. The department store chain, owned by Hudson's Bay Company, now known as HBC, had been a reliable partner up to that point, vendor sources said. Some brands, including the LA-based label, ended or scaled back their relationships with Saks, but many others hoped the irregular payments were a temporary hiccup or that Saks was hoarding cash while it plotted its long-rumored takeover of Neiman Marcus Group. That deal, which was announced in July 2024 and completed in December, was accompanied by the issuance of a $2 billion bond and buy-in from some deep-pocketed investors, including Amazon, Authentic Brands Group, and Salesforce. The deal did little to speed up the trickle of payments, however. Metric and Richard Baker, executive chairman of HBC, hosted a conference call with vendors last August, apologizing for late repayments and assured them that the retailer would be more transparent after the Neiman Marcus transaction goes through. Which is funny because, once again, they've had all these meetings over the years and, they still haven't paid people. They're still late on a lot of payments. And yes, business is hard and there might be a lot of business reasons why, they can't pay people on time. And I do understand from a business perspective why that would happen. But under no circumstance should an executive at Saks Global be saying, take it or leave it. They asked for more transparency and we've given it to them, so I don't know why they're still complaining. Of course they're complaining. They haven't been paid. And these brands are struggling because they're relying on your business to get paid and you haven't paid them. You haven't, fulfilled your side of the deal. They fulfilled their side. They gave you the clothing that you wanted. They supplied it on time when you needed it. And you haven't done your side of the deal. So, of course, they're angry. Anyone would be angry. So, under no circumstances should you be blaming your retailers and saying that, they're being or inferring that they are being unreasonable. Under no circumstance should any executive at Saks Global be talking like that. It's just completely tone deaf. Even if they have their own financial issues. And, of course, there are very specific business reasons why they can't pay people on time. They need to be sensitive to the fact that the companies that they aren't paying are also struggling. So of course they are completely warranted to be annoyed with the fact that they keep being promised these things, they keep having meetings, but they haven't seen any payments. That's just completely normal. Just completely normal. Exactly. What a way to burn bridges with their brands. Exactly. And the Nectar Man said that they are using leverage. No, they surmise the supplier needs the retailer more than the other way around. That's how business works, unfortunately. Yeah, of course. And I understand. But what I don't understand is what the execs are saying. It's almost like they can't understand why the retailers are annoyed. It's almost like they genuinely can't understand based on the statements that are being made. It's literally like they don't get it. Let's see what statement they've made. I understand and am sympathetic to the last 18 months and the challenges regarding payments, Metric reiterated in the letter last week. While the text of the letter promises payment in full, for many recipients, it appears it was too little too late. It's wrong and misleading to act as if this is going to be helpful, said the CEO of an American fashion group who decided last week to terminate its relationship with Saks for good and cancelled its upcoming orders from Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman. It's disrespectful to say everyone should put the last 18 months behind them when Saks had their buyers go out in the market and commit to orders that they had no intentions of seeing through. Exactly what I was referring to earlier, where it's very exploitative to know the issues that you have and just put in orders anyway, knowing full well that you have no intentions to pay because you know that from your side, you don't have the cash flow to do it. That's insane. And I completely agree with this statement. Other brands are taking the letter in stride. So-called net 90 payment terms are not unusual in the wholesale business, and Saks is hardly the first department store to defer payments. Purchase orders are rarely contractual, and as unsecured creditors, brands have always had limited means of collecting what's owed to them by their stockists. That's very true too. I did allude to that earlier, that this is nothing new. Like in fashion in general, it's been known for having, retailers not paying on time and, exploit terms of certain contracts, or sometimes they don't even have contracts in place. And that's why a lot of brands are now focusing more than ever on D2C, because they don't want to deal with all this mess and all this headache. But reading on, it's still going to be a lot of chasing, but at least it's something, said one LA-based designer. I was ready to write off what they owed us as bad debt. Like, imagine putting a lot of brands in this position, that they are literally in a position where they have to write off what they are owed as bad debt. That is insane. They paid the factories, they paid the seamstresses, they paid their member of staff, they paid for all the raw materials. They had to pay for that. And then they sell, they have their things bought under these payment terms that are supposed to be paid, and they are never paid. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane that you've forced brands into almost thinking that they just have to write it off as bad debt, because after 18 months, which is such a long time, by the way, 18 months. Oh my God. Think of that in terms of seasons. I always say this, fashion brands, all it takes is one season for a lot of brands to just completely financially decimate a brand. Now, if you think 18 months, think of how many seasons happen within the span of 18 months. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Gary Wassner, founder of leading fashion financing firm Hilden, told his clients to give Saks the benefit of the doubt. Nobody is going to lose any money as they did with Barney's and Neiman when they went bankrupt, or as they did with Matches Fashion, Wassner told BOF. Nobody from Saks is trying to negotiate down the amount they are owed. Saks has clearly said they will pay everyone. That's one comforting aspect of the situation. You guys, I've already said, because even they seem to be, saying that we're going to pay everyone, so it's fine. I've already given, the analogy of someone living paycheck to paycheck and then delaying their payment by a little bit could absolutely decimate their life. So, delaying a payment by 18 months, okay, yes, it's nice that these people are still supposedly, because these payments haven't actually been made, they're promised to be made, but supposedly they're claiming that these payments will eventually be made. That's good, because like we said earlier with Matches Fashion, so many people were not paid at all. And with other, companies like retailers like Barney's, when they closed down, so many people just had to write that off, and they didn't see any money at all. So, okay, cool, that's a positive, but they shouldn't be acting like, they are God's gift from earth because they're finally paying people 18 months after. But anyway, reading on. But given Saks' recent track record, even net 90 seems like an unreliable promise, one CEO said. Everyone knows they'll play games around that, they said. Some also took issue with the fact that they called a thinly veiled threat in Metric's letter, which stated that if brands choose to cut back their shipments to Saks, then they would be eliminated from its brand roster. Interesting. Interesting, guys. So look at the bullying here. So they have paid people late, which has led to the decimation of confidence for a lot of these brands with Saks as a retailer. And Metric said that if they cut back on their shipments, they will be eliminated from the brand's roster. Now, let me get this correct. So you haven't done your side of the deal. All the other brands have done their side of the deal, not you. And you want to punish brands for reducing their orders to your company because you haven't paid them. That's crazy. I'm sorry. That's crazy. That's crazy. That is actually so crazy, it's funny. In the absence of the normal flow of goods, We anticipate that we will have to make changes to our brand partner matrix, Metric wrote. He told BOF stocking a smaller number of brands would help Saks Global better support the ones that remain. Oh my God, guys. Isn't this what I said earlier? That if you don't have the cash flow issues to pay all these brands, maybe you should reduce the amount of brands that you're stocking while you fix your issues so that when you expand again, you have the cash flow to pay brands sooner. That's literally what I said. It's literally what I said earlier. And then when you read the article, Metric himself told BOF that stocking a smaller number of brands would help Saks Global better support the ones that remain. So why didn't they just do that before? like it's so crazy. And the Nectar man, yeah, exactly. This is the leverage you're talking about. Yeah, it is a very nasty business. But I like reporting these things because I think that a lot of people don't really know how hard the business of fashion is. So I like to report and really talk about it because this is why I always advise designers especially designers that go to fashion school. They're like, yeah, I want to start my brand out of school. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Go and work for a brand and build contacts and connections so that you have an easier time when you do start your brand. There's no rush. So many people in a rush. They want to be like some billionaire. They want to have some billion brand or some million brand by the time they're 25. They want to be like on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. I think it's very unrealistic as a goal. I think you shouldn't do that personally. As someone that's worked in the industry, that would be my advice to designers. So let's see. I just got a Skims ad opening up the stream. Didn't know Ayo secured that Kardashian bag. Yeah, Kim Kardashian has never paid me. If she wants to pay me, hey, who am I to say no? I'll use that money and invest more on my YouTube content. But yeah, I think the only reason you'll probably get a Skims ad is because Skims is in the title of my stream. So it's kind of like a targeted ad. But yeah, I have no direct money from Skims. So yeah. But anyway, reading on. Let's just skip. The next section is what's the plan. So let's see what their plan is to pay the retailers. Let's see. Even if the company starts paying back the millions of dollars it owes vendors, executives who spoke with BOF said that they question whether Saks Global can make good on its promise to become the dominant force in luxury retail that was touted as the reason for the merger. We took a big leap to get this deal done, but we did it so we can strengthen not just our company, but strengthen our ability to be a great partner and to grow the industry, said Metric. However, that task will only grow more difficult if Saks cannot mend its relationship with the brands that fill its stores. Several brand executives noted that Saks' approach to paying vendors had spread to Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman. Prior to this transaction closing, the Neiman Marcus Group owned stores were responsible partners that usually paid their bills 30 days after an invoice went through, some brands said. What I see is a lack of vision, a lack of integrity, and frankly, a lack of a business plan, said the CEO of the American fashion group that ended its relationship with Saks. The anger among vendors has been exacerbated by word-of-mouth reports that brands with personal connections to Saks leadership or under the ownership of powerful conglomerates had fewer hiccups with payments and have been told by the company that they will not be subject to the payment plan outlined in the letter. Metric confirmed that there are some vendors who are exempt from the new plan. So once again, let me just highlight that section. This is why, and once again, this is exactly why I tell people, don't start a brand immediately, go and work for a brand. This is why you need connections. Can you see the difference between who you know and not knowing said people and having those relationships? Certain people haven't been paid and are struggling because they haven't gotten their money. Meanwhile, other vendors who know people personally that are on the Saks leadership are not even subject to the payment plans and have gotten their payments immediately. They're not even, they have no issues and no worries, right? This is exactly why I tell people, build connections in the fashion industry, Build contacts. Don't just start a brand. You will have no contacts and you will get the least favorable terms everywhere you turn, and you will be absolutely like decimated by all the terms that you sign. So yeah, this is exactly why. This is exactly why I say this. Terms are based on individual brand negotiations. Some brands would have different terms than other brands, he said, which is normal, by the way. That's like completely known, and that's normal in every business. So yeah, that's what you know, but that's why it's very important to build those connections and build those contacts. Next, can't walk away. Despite their frustration, industry insiders were reluctant to speak on the record about Saks because of its sheer scale and its connections to other powerful figures in the business. Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus Group combined have an annual turnover of $10 billion. Though they have competitors that stock a similar assortment, as far as US-based pure luxury department store chains go, it's the biggest game in town. And that, once again, is why they have the power, which is normal in every business. Like, if you have that kind of power, you can tell brands, even though we haven't paid you, if you reduce how much you stock with us, then we will terminate our relationship with you. That's why they're in a position to be able to have the leverage to even do that in the first place, right? But reading on. None of us are able to speak out about this because we do not hold the power. Saks does, said one designer of a small New York-based fashion brand who was owed $100,000 by Saks Fifth Avenue last year. Wow. A small fashion brand, $100,000 is a lot of money to be owed if you're a small fashion brand. Like, that is a lot of money. Like, damn. Saks has since paid most of that total, but the designer decided to exit the retailer about 6 months ago and is now weighing whether to do the same with Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman. For smaller brands, even a $10,000 missing payment can lead to severe cash flow issues and upend their production schedule, destabilizing their businesses. The designer who was owed $100,000 told BOF that after Saks stopped paying its bills, they had to take out a commercial bank loan for the first time. Oh my God, this is literally exactly the analogy that I gave when I was talking about if you're living paycheck to paycheck and your employer is late on a payment, now you have to start, getting loans and incurring credit card debt. And before you know it, you enter a level of debt that you'll never be able to pay off. That's exactly what happens in these situations. It's literally what happens. But reading on. Alternatives to working with Saks are scarce. All of the brands BOS spoke to for the story said they have adjusted their sales and shipments to Saks since 2023 when the payment issues first surfaced. By prioritizing their direct-to-consumer channels, brands can reduce the financial impact of wholesale debt. See, once again, what we've been talking about the rise of D2C and many brands investing most of their money towards D2C, it's because of things like this. It's definitely because of these reasons. This reinforces what we knew was happening, that you can't put all your eggs in one basket, which is true. I mean, in business, the general business knowledge is that you shouldn't put your eggs in one basket because, when that basket breaks, everything breaks, right? That's just normal. Said the founder of the LA-based contemporary brand, you have to diversify and be able to stand alone as a brand. And see, once again, the fact that some designers are just realizing this now shows why a lot of designers need to work at brands and not start their own company, because that is basically common sense. That you shouldn't put your eggs in one basket. Like, if I owned a brand and one retailer was responsible for 50% of my revenue, I would be scrambling, because I'm like, what happens if this retailer just one season decides not to stock as much? Like, we're screwed. I would be scrambling to find alternatives and to try and build a D2C and stuff to make sure that, I'm not that reliant on one retailer. Like, if there's anything that leads to 50% of my revenue, it's a cause for concern for a business. Like, I would be scrambling to make sure that's not the case, to be honest. That's not a good position to be in at all. But that's common sense. So the fact that a lot of designers don't realize that which is normal because, like I've always said, a lot of designers are not the most business savvy people. They tend to be, you know, very creative people, like really magnificent creative people, but they don't like to think about business. A lot of designers don't like to think about money or talk about money, but if you want to survive as a business, you need to think about these things. It's very important. But anyway, reading on. But there are limits to how far a direct selling strategy can go. The e-commerce marketplace is crowded and online marketing is expensive, as is opening directly operated brick and mortar stores, which is also true. You'd imagine brands would be happy to shift time and money into their own channels, said Eric Fish, National Sector Head of Retail and Apparel at HSBC's Corporate Banking Division. But we are seeing a lot of brands spend time with wholesale partners. Another way to make up for late payments is to charge Saks higher prices, which can lead to thicker margins on a product the retailer does end up selling. This was standard practice among vendors for Sears and JCPenney leading up to their respective bankruptcies. It can be effective for brands, but will weaken the retailer. The whole dynamic is what's wrong here, the designer who was owed $100,000 said. It's so funny that, obviously because BEO can't disclose the name of this brand, so it's just like, the designer who was owed $100,000 said. What happens now? On that, the brands and Metric agree. I'm not a victim of it, but at the same time, I'm an equal participant in the ecosystem, Metric said. For Saks Global, the way to address wholesale systematic problems is to create the largest, most highly personalized, best customer experience that you can have. Channel agnostic, he said. Under the leadership of Richard Baker, the chairman of Saks Global, owner HBC, Saks' own retail footprint has been scaled back in recent years, which is the perfect decision to do while they fix these issues. So I definitely agree with that decision. Baker, a real estate investor, has amassed a fortune buying and selling off retail properties. Under Baker's ownership, Lord & Taylor sold his flagship store in Manhattan for $850 million in 2017, 3 years before it declared bankruptcy. Earlier this week, it was reported that Saks Global will close the Neiman Marcus flagship store in downtown Dallas next month, which has been there for so long, by the way, as well as a Saks Fifth Avenue flagship location in Toronto. Saks has not confirmed the latter and told BOF that the Dallas closure was due to failed lease negotiations with the landlord. That could definitely be partially true, but I question if that's the only reason why they're closing down the store. That is just because the lease negotiations failed. Like, was it because you didn't want to pay them what you should rightfully pay them? Like, what was the reason why? However, Metric said Saks' global future lies in retail, not real estate. You don't double down on luxury retail to build the largest luxury multi-brand distribution platform in the world because you're just interested in real estate, Metric said. Luxury is our long game and we are steadfastly committed to our strategy. Saks faces plenty of competition on that front. There are a growing number of specialty stores with strong regional followings and nationwide chains that dabble in high-end fashion and accessories such as Anthropologie. Online retailers including Shopbop, Revolve, and Forward have built reputations in recent years as supportive and high-volume partners. Saks' straining relationship with brands will also be an opportunity for Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's to enhance their brand mix and product assortment, insiders said. Even Macy's is exploring an upmarket play in certain locations and has inked new partnerships with a number of contemporary brands. Whenever there is disruption in one retailer or channel, it always creates opportunities with best-in-class competitors, said Fish. So, very interesting. Like I said, it was very much a long one, but I think it's very important also to talk about news, not just in what's going on with brands in a very, frivolous way, but also really talk about the nitty-gritty of business and the business realities for a lot of up-and-coming brands and kind of how they are suffering with a lot of their retailers. So I thought it was very important to talk about this and really talk about a lot of the issues that have been happening. And so now that we've read this article, this next article, which I won't read, but I think all these are very good reads. If you're going to get one subscription, definitely get a BOF subscription. Of course, I read a lot of BOF articles in the stream. And because I do that, I do have to give BOF their rightful promo because they do good work. I mean, I've worked there, I've seen it firsthand. But yeah, if you can afford a BOF subscription, definitely get it because every day they post really good articles and they do really good research, interview execs and get all the relative and very key information that they need. So yeah, but it makes sense why, of course, they did the follow-up about Saks needing to earn back brands' trust. And it also makes a lot of sense why there are a lot of layoffs coming as the company continues the integration process following the recent acquisition of Neiman Marcus and all the financial and cash flow issues that has caused. And that's exactly the reason why they haven't been able to pay a lot of the brands on time. So yeah, what do you guys think about retail and where retail is going? I'm very curious to know what you guys think about everything that has been going on. Let me see your thoughts, and then after that I shall be taking my leave. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comments. Someone said laughing my ass, 100k is somewhere out there. To be fair, it did say in the article that most of it has been paid, but obviously that doesn't matter because not paying on time leads to so many like cash flow issues and stuff. Let's see. So is a major cause of that debt the lack of knowing your customer, retailer, and brand-wise? Well, of course. Because as a retailer, if you don't know your customers correctly, then your clothing doesn't sell, and then therefore you don't make a lot of money. So yeah, literally. It's literally that. Someone said people aren't shopping in the malls anymore. Well, yes. I mean, I do think people still buy retail, but not in like those big shopping malls. People want to go to special concept stores like Dover Street Market. I mentioned Colette, which obviously isn't around anymore, but I really loved it. Like people want to go to stores like that. But a lot of people don't want to shop, especially expensive stuff. They want to feel like they get the total luxury experience. So they don't want to go to like a massive mall where everything just kind of looks mundane. And people don't really want to do that, especially at a very high price point. And it's good that Saks actually sees that as a thing to focus on because, you know, they did actually say that it makes sense for them to create the perfect luxury customer experience. And it's good to see that that's one of the focuses because I think that's a good thing. That's a good direction that they are going in, to be honest. My girlfriend works at Bergdorf in NYC and has not been paid for months, and everyone on the floor is waiting for major layoffs. That's insane, by the way. But this is what I mean about how exploitative a lot of these companies are. Like, how are you not going to pay someone for months? 4 months. Like, geez, it's just insane. It's just insane. It's totally insane. Totally insane. Anyway, guys, drink of the day. I am drinking this Japanese green tea that I absolutely love. It's very, very addictive. But anyway, I want to leave the stream and drink some more Japanese green tea. So I shall be taking my leave. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in because I am streaming at a very random time. It is very late. It's very early, sorry, by UK standards. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed. Watch it back if you want. And like I always say, please follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to get to 200 followers on Twitch, and you know, I'm trying to build my audience on Twitch as well as YouTube. So please, if you have a Twitch account, please follow me on there. If you want to check out my ebook, it's about effective ways to learn about fashion. I talk about journalists you should check out, and I just give a few tips on things that you should consider when you study fashion or read about fashion. So I have that on my website. But yeah, on that note, I'll see you guys later. And yeah, stay tuned for my next stream. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone.